so we will call the Committee on Health and Human Services meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Marecki.
Here.
Commissioner Dobb.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Killeen.
Right here.
Chair Baker McCormick.
Here.
I have a quorum present.
Next item, thank you.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item, please.
C, approval of the October 12th, 2021 meeting minutes.
So
Is
moved.
there a motion? Okay, is there support?
Support, Colleen.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passed. Next item, please.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Next item.
Item 1, for new business, discussion with Dr. Carl Schmidt, Wayne County Chief Medical Examiner, and Melita Jordan, Wayne County Director of the Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services regarding Medical Examiner's Office operations.
Great, thank you. Is Dr. Schmidt going to speak first, or will we have some remarks by Director Jordan?
Well, we thank you very much for having us here today. As you have requested, we are coming before the I forgot I didn't introduce myself again. Melita Jordan. I'm the Director for Health, Human and Veteran Services. And again, thank you very much for having us here today. As you have requested, a report as well as a presentation to address the issues in the medical examiner's office. The University of Michigan is here along with Dr. Schmidt, Dr. Wilson, and Dr. Myers. And so we will open up the process for them to present the presentation at your request.
All right, so we do have a presentation, a slide presentation, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so Madam Clerk, do you have that presentation?
I do, unless they would like to do it themselves. They can share their screen. Not, then I can pull it up.
Yes, Dr. Myers?
Yes, can you see my slides?
Not yet. We
Oh.
see you.
Can you see my slide there?
Nope.
Not yet.
No.
Huh.
Okay, maybe we'll just have the clerk.
Let me try one more time. Here we
okay.
go.
Oh, there we are. There we go. We can, we see the
There it
agenda.
Yes.
There it
And
is.
now the slide.
Yeah.
Great.
You'd think I'd have more expertise in the use of Zoom after the last year and a half.
Okay, can you give your name and
Yes.
title for the record, please?
Yes, I'm here on behalf of the University of Michigan Department of Pathology. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Myers. I'm here in my capacity as Vice Chair for Clinical Affairs and Quality in our Department of Pathology. I am here today with Dr. Carl Schmidt, Medical Examiner of Wayne County, and Dr. Alicia Wilson, who is the Director of the Autopsy and Forensic Services in our department. And together, the three of us will be giving this brief presentation. And I wanted to start by thanking Director Jordan, Committee Chair Commissioner Baker McCormick, and all of the Wayne County Commissioners for providing us this opportunity to present to you and to the public our role, our services, and an update on our plans for addressing recent cases of understandable concern. The Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office, together with Michigan Medicine and the University of Michigan Department of Pathology, are committed to providing the best possible services to the loved ones of the decedents in our care and the families and residents of Wayne County. We want to share with you our continuous improvement in our operations while welcoming the opportunity to collaborate with all parties to enhance the work that we do together. Organizationally, the Department of Pathology comprises multiple sections and divisions, one of which is autopsy and forensic services. This service includes our Michigan Medicine Hospital Autopsy Service, but it also includes the medical examiner offices of Livingston and Washtenaw counties, as well as the medical examiner offices for Wayne and Monroe counties. Each of these counties has a contract with the University of Michigan, which outlines its professional and operational obligations. Please note that all of the medical examiners retain their county appointments by their respective board of county commissioners. I'd like to just briefly review what happens at a medical examiner's office and some of the things that don't happen in a medical examiner's office, and show you a little bit about the organization of the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office in particular. Medical examiner's offices provide services under the medical examiner's jurisdiction, which includes investigations of deaths in accordance with Public Act 181. Their duties include performing autopsies. They determine cause and manner of death, and provide court testimony relevant to those observations and facts. Many of the services performed at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office are actually done in collaboration with other agencies and experts. Identification, for example, includes fingerprint analysis, which is done by law enforcement. Dental analysis, also sometimes referred to as forensic dentistry, is done by contract in collaboration with experts at the University of Michigan. The same can be said of anthropology, and DNA testing is outsourced. The Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office processes unclaimed individuals and also plays an important public health role for surveillance and reporting. That work is done currently by a staff of 37. We have one unfilled position for a forensic pathologist who are physicians with specialty training. We currently have 7. We have 3 pathologist assistants who help with the work. We have 12 medical legal death investigators. We have 6 autopsy assistants, 2 photographers, 3 administrative staff, and 4 managerial staff, all of whom report up through Dr. Carl Schmidt in his role as Chief Medical Examiner. I'd like to briefly review our history and talk a little bit about why we embarked on this mutually beneficial collaboration a decade ago in 2011. In 2011, like today, our country, state, and certainly the county was confronted with a severe workforce gap for subspecialty trained forensic pathologists. Our goal through this collaboration included addressing this national physician shortage and improving the services provided to the citizens of Wayne County. There were a number of tactics underneath that goal, and the first was filling the vacant positions for forensic pathologists. 4 of 8 positions were vacant at that time. That vacancy rate accounted for a large backlog of cases and slow turnaround times, which we wanted to fix. We wanted to consolidate laboratory functions and outsource some of them to improve service delivery and reduce costs. We wanted to establish a forensic pathology fellowship to train the next generation of forensic pathologists. And we wanted to obtain accreditation by the National Association of Medical Examiners, which is abbreviated elsewhere as NAME. To see how that sorted out over time, our first contract was effective October 1st, 2011, almost exactly a decade ago. That first contract was a 3-year contract. It was a professional services agreement, which means that it was limited to the physician, forensic pathologists at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office who became members of the faculty in the Department of Pathology at the University of Michigan Medical School. The non-physician staff remained employees of Wayne County, and Wayne County owned the building and retained responsibility for the facilities, which persists to this day. In the second year of that contract, we did earn accreditation from the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education, abbreviated here as ACGME, for a Forensic Pathology Fellowship, which was a collaboration between the University of Michigan and the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. The second contract was another 3-year contract that became effective October 1st, 2014. And I think many of you were here for the first and the second iteration of this contract. The second one changed things a bit. This was both a professional services and an operational services agreement that made not only the physician forensic pathologist, but also the non-physician staff employees of the University of Michigan Health System. And again, the building and facilities remained with Wayne County. In 2016, we achieved our goal of accreditation by the National Association of Medical Examiners. The current contract became effective in 2017. This is a 5-year contract that again included all of the non-physician staff and physicians. The facilities again remain the responsibility of Wayne County. In 2018, our accreditation status with name went to a provisional status, and that was entirely due to a workforce gap, as we, like others, struggled to not only recruit but also retain forensic pathologists in what has become a highly competitive space. NAME estimates that there are about 500 forensic pathologists working in our country to satisfy the needs of 1,200 positions. So the workforce gap that was really a primary driver for this agreement in the first place remains. Despite the competition, we've actually been remarkably successful in recruiting 17 forensic pathologists over the last decade. With the next slide, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Carl Schmidt, our Chief Medical Examiner for Wayne County, as you know, and he will share information pertaining to the operations of the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office.
So I assume everybody can hear me. So this chart shows our caseload as it has varied over the past 5 years. You can see that on a typical year, we get reported about 15,000 to 15,800 cases approximately. This has been increasing since the late aughts, around 2008, 2009. We were still getting only about 12,000 to 13,000 death calls a year. And that has steadily increased until around 2014, 2015. It remains between 15,000 and 16,000. And of course, the pandemic year came and we had 19,101 case reports. And that year we also did 2,621 autopsies instead of our usual of about 2,300. So it was about a 15% increase over previous years. This year, we've done about 2,000 autopsies at the time this chart was created, which was a couple of weeks ago. And we project that we will have about 2,400 autopsies for this year. As far as the average days in the morgue of a body, it's gone down from 21.8 to 7.6 in 2021. This sounds like a lot of days in 2017, but we have slowly been clearing out the backlog of unclaimed individuals. And the mean is a result of the fact that we had people that had been in storage for a long time, but that storage time has been decreasing so that now the average is about 7.6 days. As far as unclaimed individuals, 16, we chose as a benchmark 60 days after December 31st of each year. So you can see how this has varied over the years, and our numbers of unclaimed individuals has actually decreased about 10%, 10 to 15% from 2017 to 2020. Currently unclaimed, there were in March of 2020, 32. You'll see that for 2021, it's 166, but that includes all of the unclaimed individuals that have been done recently, so that the vast majority of those will be claimed sometime within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And as far as unidentified individuals are concerned, we have up to this point 20 for this year. We have had as few as 6 in 2017. We had 20 in 2019. We had 15. The next slide. So this is a bar chart that shows, I think, helps put in context the numbers that I have just described. What this bar chart does not do is actually describe the number of cases that come to the office. So the brown bar chart indicates the number of autopsies, but you really need to add about 800 to 1,000 individuals to that, so that we actually process about 3,600 to 3,800 cases in the office every year. We don't autopsy about a third of the cases that come through the office, because many of them are elderly individuals, many with multiple medical problems that die at home, and there is no one initially related to them that can provide funeral arrangements for them. So we provide storage for them in our office. But other than that, except for the pandemic year, in which we had about in excess of about 1,300 to 1,400 of those individuals that we didn't do an autopsy on, the caseload has remained relatively constant. Next. So 10 years later, all the original goals have been met. We have 7 full-time forensic pathologists with 4 adjunct forensic pathologists that come in and fill mainly on weekends to help decrease the average caseload per pathologist. We have improved case turnaround times. This is especially with histology. When we first started the contract, there was a 6 to 8 month turnaround time for histology. This is where we take tissue and make microscopic slides so that we can see tissue under the microscope. There are many cases where we have to make slides and look at tissue under the microscope to make a diagnosis. And because of a number of issues, including malfunctioning equipment, we had actually started to outsource histology to other labs. But as I said before, the turnaround time was 6 to 8 months. One of the first things that happened with the contract was that several people came from Michigan Medicine, and they took with them an incredibly large number of tissue that had, cassettes of tissue that had to be processed, and processed them within a relatively short amount of time, and eliminated our backlog within about 2 to 3 month period. We outsourced our toxicology to a national lab for cost efficiency. At that time, we saved the county about $600,000 in toxicology costs, mainly related to consumables and the operation of a toxicology lab. But also at that time, we had equipment that was 18 years old, and the county was going to have to invest approximately $2 million. I think it was $2.2 million to replace our toxicology equipment, because what we had was basically no longer going to work within a very short time. We have had 12 people finish our forensic pathology fellowship. This is really the way to replenish the specialty. The shortage of forensic pathologists is reaching a critical stage throughout the United States. I think in Michigan, there's going to be a need felt by several counties within the next year or so as people are starting to retire. We are still name accredited. It is provisional accreditation, but it is accreditation. And we continue our educational mission. And this is one of the things that makes us an attractive place to train. And as I said before, it is by training individuals that we interest them in forensic pathology and hopefully replenish the specialty as needed, because it is, well, the scarcity of forensic pathologists is going to get worse as time goes on. And now, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Schmidt and Dr. Myers. My name is Alicia Wilson, and I'm the Director of Autopsy and Forensic Services. While we acknowledge the progress has been made over the last 10 years, we grieve the mistakes. No family should have to deal with the sorts of problems that were brought to our attention. We are committed to continuously improving our operations and the services we provide to the citizens of Wayne County. We have reviewed all of the cases that were brought to our attention, and they fall into two main focus areas. The first being delays in identification, and the second involves slowing decomposition. What follows is a brief synopsis of these events and our plan to prevent them from happening again. Next slide. In order to provide context for the first category of delays in notification, let's briefly review the process for identifying decedents who fall under medical examiner jurisdiction. Scene investigators employed at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office investigate the scenes of death, searching for identifying information, which may include driver's license, state ID, mail or paperwork. Fingerprints may also be utilized for primary identification. If there is no identification, the decedent is classified as unidentified or an unknown person. Positive identification, next slide, can be confirmed by these methods, with visual identification by the next of kin or relative being the most common method that we utilize. Next, let's explore the issues of delays in identification and notification. Things that we know. 5 individuals were impacted. In one case, it was found that the investigator did not follow up on information that was available at the scene and retained by law enforcement. The other 4 cases can be categorized as fingerprint factors. In one case, fingerprints could not be obtained at the scene and no other identifying information was available. In one case, the first and last names linked to the fingerprints were different than the actual birth names. It's important to remember that although fingerprints are unique to the individual, the accuracy of them rely on proper linkage of those prints to the actual name that we utilize in the law enforcement database. In the remaining 2 cases, typographical errors in the first 3 letters of their last name interfered in identification. In one, a misspelling occurred when the first letter of the last name was entered into the Wayne County Medical Examiner system. In the other, a misspelling in the 3rd letter of the last name was recorded on the fingerprint information the office received from law enforcement. I would mention here that it's important to note that the first 3 letters are very critical in identifying and making these linkages when we're searching for unidentified people. So we have identified some issues. What are we going to do about it? Well, the first case, when it was identified in 2017, measures were implemented. The office worked with the software vendor to implement a change in the database so that the data body is released could be printed along with the case number in the docket. And what this meant was that you could look at any day and see who was brought in and if they had been released. The chief investigator also would run weekly reports for open cases and cross-reference them with the assigned investigator. We still had additional cases, as I just went over, since that implementation. Things we have immediately implemented was updating the identification policy and procedure. It outlines step by step what an investigator needs to do when an individual is unidentified. And since we have learned that rarely it is possible for fingerprints to be linked to an incorrect name, identification by fingerprints requires one of those additional steps in positive identification. But that's just the beginning for us. We are committed to ongoing corrective actions. Now, here's a list of a lot of those actions, but I just want to point out our top three, or three that I find the most valuable. The first is going to be recruitment of a new scene investigator, one full-time position to manage all of the unidentified cases. This will give the families a point person to connect with when they're searching for a loved one. The second, although the ME office does do a weekly status update on all the cases, is to perform a more in-depth audit to ensure none of the factors that I just mentioned are still ongoing. And the third, which is a favorite among our team and modeled after other large offices, is the creation of a web-based portal where families can also search the unidentified individuals themselves by key features. This can also be linked to missing person reports for law enforcement to also do a search. So basically, it's allowing other people to see the unique features of those decedents who are unclaimed or unidentified that are residing in the Wayne County morgue. We are truly committed to identifying and reuniting decedents with their loved ones. Next slide. The second focus area of concern related to slowing decomposition. 2 individuals were impacted. One was primary and one was secondary related to a delay in notification, and I've already reviewed that one. Decomposition is a common challenge in forensic pathology. It's how the body just breaks down tissue after death, and it's normal. While it begins right after death, the process can be accelerated with higher temperatures in the summer months. Although refrigeration can slow it down, it doesn't completely stop it. And the morgue takes steps to immediately try to slow down this process. Next slide. So what the morgue does is that an individual is kept in refrigeration, except for that short time when they have an autopsy, and that only takes about 2 hours. Other than that, they're in refrigeration. In the one primary case, a body was released to the funeral home 10 days after being received, at which time there were gaps in refrigeration related to flooding from the heavy rains we received in Detroit on June 25th and 26th. So what have we done? We do have refrigerated trucks on standby. One truck is cooled and always operating 24/7. It does not rely on backup generators, and so it's always available. We have additional trucks on standby if needed. What's our ongoing action? Well, we want to install temperature controls and monitors in the morgue refrigerators for real-time monitoring. We will evaluate the refrigeration equipment and determine whether it requires replacement or repair as part of the facility's upcoming renovations. And we'll analyze the backup generator failure to see what can we do to prevent the backup generators from going out during a flood.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Carl. I want to bring this presentation to a close with gratitude to Director Jordan, Committee Chair Commissioner Baker McCormick, Vice Chair Commissioner Tim Killeen, and all participating Wayne County Commissioners for this opportunity to share our strong commitment to the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office and the residents and families of Wayne County. We're deeply committed to proceeding with the corrective action items that we just shared with you today, as well as any other opportunities discovered in our ongoing investigations that might help us do this work better tomorrow. We look forward to any additional questions that you may have as we return the virtual podium to Commissioner McCormick, I will just say the next slide and last slide available to you on your deck has some references that you may find helpful. Thank you very much. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Myers, for your presentation, and to Dr. Schmidt and Dr. Wilson. I do have a few questions that I wanted to clarify. And I am so happy about you laying out how the coroner's office works, because for a lot of us, we didn't understand the process. So the presentation was very helpful. And although you laid out the problems and how to solve them, which is most important, are there any ramifications from any of these cases for any of the employees that caused the issues to happen?
I can answer that
Carl, you want to
question.
answer that? Yeah, thank you.
In one of the cases where there was apparently a phone number written in an article of clothing, there were 2 investigators involved. Both of them are no longer working. And there is another case that also involved not following up with an ID, and that investigator resigned before he was going to go to a disciplinary review committee for a number of issues.
Okay. Also, do you have any statistics in the number of cases? I know out of all the cases that you deal with throughout the year, you indicated that there were 5 cases of where there were issues with either identification or decomposition. Do you know the statistics of other area coroner offices that may have had similar issues, and in comparison to our capacity at Wayne County?
The numbers of unclaimed individuals throughout the country is not a well understood problem, but there are a couple of references that have been written that look at the problem. I think one of them is from Indiana, the other one is from Los Angeles, and I can send you those references because they're fairly lengthy and they're in the scientific literature.
Okay, well, thank you. I would like to see if any other commissioners on the committee have any questions. Commissioner Dodd, and then Commissioner Colleen, Vice Chair Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to ask a couple of things about the creation of the public-facing web-based portal. Would this be a standalone website, or would this be something that is going to be either on the Wayne County website or U of M's website?
That would be something that would have to be on the Wayne County website, whether it be a link that will take you to a separate web page, or if it's something you can access directly on the Wayne County website.
Okay, and then this would just list unclaimed or unidentified individuals at the Wayne County morgue. Is that correct?
It would, but you can actually modify it depending on how, I suppose, depending on how comfortable people are with the items that you put on it. But in some counties, you actually have things like tattoos and other identifying marks in unidentified individuals that are part of that list of unclaimed individuals, which may help to identify individuals that are held in storage. But it all depends on how much effort you're willing to put into it and what you're comfortable putting online.
Okay. And would this be connected to the name us? I don't know if I'm the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, or would it just be its own site?
It would be its own site, just listing those individuals that are unidentified in Wayne County. We also actually use NamUs, but we upload data to NamUs through which the public in any part of the country can look at the cases that we have uploaded there.
Okay, so you already do that through NamUs?
Correct.
Okay, but then we're just thinking of creating another standalone website through on the Wayne County site to just put our own people on there.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I was wondering. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dobb. And that made me think of just one other question before Vice Chair Colleen. Can you explain to us the full process from start to finish when you receive an individual, what that process looks like? And in this case, if they were unidentified.
So when a body is found, someone calls it in to our main number, and one of the investigators receives the call and gives it a case number. It's a database manager that will automatically generate a case number in sequential fashion for each year. And the investigator will input into the database all the pertinent data, such as where the body is found, and so on and so forth, whether it's reported from the hospital. And from there, one of the investigators on duty will go to the scene to pick up the body. Before they leave here, they have prepared a body card, which is popularly known as a toe tag, as well as generated a list of labels that may be put on various items at the scene if they need to be picked up. They arrive at the scene and they will get whatever information they need from police agencies. They will document the scene, take pictures, and so on. We tend to leave as many valuables as we can on site. So if there's family, we will remove items like rings, wallets, and so on, and give them to the family or the police agency in which the death occurred. And then the body will be brought to the office. And then usually the next day, we have a process whereby we inspect all the cases that are brought in the day before. And if somebody is unidentified, depending on the context in which the body is found, then the process will be a little different. So for example, in individuals who are found burned, oftentimes there is a way to at least circumstantially identify them, because most people who die in circumstances like burning buildings will be known to other people. At the scene, ID is made, hopefully with some kind of driver's license or whatever other state ID that is present. If there is none, which is often the case, then the first method we use is fingerprints. And that is a police agency comes and will fingerprint the individual. We don't actually have fingerprint equipment. And they then will upload the fingerprints to a national database where they can see if that individual has been fingerprinted before and make an ID that way. If there is no ID and there are no fingerprints, which is surprisingly common, we will try to use dental records. So we have a forensic dentist that comes and takes sample and takes an X-ray from the deceased's teeth, and hopefully that person will have had dental work in the past. And that is the big if with dental ID, is that you have to have had dental work done in the past so we can match those dental x-rays, or rather the dentist match those dental x-rays to previously existing dental x-rays from wherever it is that you had dentistry done. And if that fails, then sometimes we have to use things like particular bony deformities. We take pictures, we take x-rays on all these cases. Some people have had surgery, some people have had medical implants, and we can actually take out a medical implant during an autopsy, for example, a pacemaker. And you can take the serial number from that pacemaker and match it to a name. There is a registry where these serial numbers are kept, and you can match it to the name of the deceased. And then if all else fails, we also take a couple of drops of blood and keep them in a glassine envelope, dried in a filter paper. But that presupposes that someone will show up claiming to be family, and there's a way to swab them and then take DNA from that relative and match it with the DNA from the blood card that we keep. In skeletonized remains, there is no blood card because you are skeletonized. So in that case, we depend on sending a sample of bone along with a swab from the deceased to, we use the University of North Texas, which has a federal grant, which they can use to match DNA extracted from bones to that of the relatives who got swabbed. And I think that covers most of the methods that we use.
Thank you. So with the fingerprint and also the dental exam, is there a database that you can look at for the dental, or how do you coordinate that with all of the dental doctors' offices around the state? How do you do that?
Well, for the fingerprints, there is a database. Police have access to those databases. We don't.
Okay.
And for dental work, the premise behind that is that someone will come up and say that they have an individual who they're looking for that is missing, and then we have as a standard question if they have had dental work, and if they know where they have had that dental work, then we will contact the dentist's office. The dentist's office. There is no a centralized database which keeps all films ever taken in the dentist's office, so that we can match it to the dental records that we obtain in our office. You have to have somebody who will step forth and identify the dentist with which you had dental work, and then we call that dentist's office and obtain the dental records for that.
See. And for fingerprints, if the law enforcement officer gets it wrong, then you have it wrong. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Vice Chair Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few questions here. Let me begin. I want to ask the County Auditor General, who I know has been requested to undertake a audit in this matter, if she could lay out what the scope of that audit might be.
Sure. To the Chair, Marcy Carr, Auditor General. We had already had the medical examiner performance audit on our audit plan for this year. Part of our objective was to ensure compliance with the contract. So we had began preliminary review before the incidents had come to light. So we actually have a walkthrough scheduled on Thursday at the medical examiner's office for our staff. So we're just in the preliminary stages though, but like I said, this was something that was already planned.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. I wanted that out there. I didn't want this meeting to go by knowing that there was some sort of an audit and not being mentioned here. Because I believe a little under a year from now is when this contract is up for renewal, and that is why you were undertaking the audit in the first place, correct?
That's correct.
For an overall, okay. Mr. Myers, I'd like to come back to you for a second. You listed 35 staff or 37 staff. Is that staff dedicated to Wayne County, or is that 37 people that are dedicated to, I guess, basically all 4 of your MEO contracts?
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Kleen. I thank you for it. And I'm sorry that I wasn't more clear. But those are all dedicated to Wayne County. Those are Wayne County Medical Examiner Office staff.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to get the background here. And I don't know if it was shared with you for the purposes of this meeting today, but there were a couple audits from a couple of previous auditor generals of the county, going back, one in 2003 and one in 2006. And a lot of the around the audit there had to do with getting reimbursed from state burial assistance. We weren't necessarily getting reimbursed by that at that time, but both of the audits also did mention unclaimed bodies, and it also discussed some of the things that we have discussed here today. So some of the things we're talking about today in those previous audits, if you go back and look at them, supposedly they were taken care of. And you know, this, I mean, it doesn't get any more personal or whatever for citizens, you know, this matter with bodies in the morgues. And certainly with our medical examiner, we've done a few things on this over the years, Dr. Schmidt, and it does keep improving. So I'm looking at your report that you sent to us, and it was pretty comprehensive, and I really appreciate it. On table 2, you gave us some data 2017 to 2021, and certainly the number of unidentified bodies seems to have gone up. I want to ask you on the 2021 year to date, with regards to current unclaimed at 166, is that just because we're in the middle of the year here and that number will look different at the end of the year? The number 166 for current unclaimed, can you throw some light on that, why that is such a bigger number than in the past?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to hand that off to Dr. Schmidt, who I think is closest to that data, but you're exactly right. That is the explanation. It's the sort of kind of lagging indicator that gets smaller with time. But Carl, can you shed some light on that for us?
Yes, those numbers include the cases that have arrived in the office over the past 2-3 months. So they will be claimed, but are as yet unclaimed, so they were counted. When you look at the numbers for the previous years that are 60 days after the first of the year, those numbers are the numbers of unclaimed individuals from the year before. They don't include the ones that were unclaimed at around February 29th, 28th, and March 1st, which is when that number was taken. So 166 does include the numbers that are unclaimed from the past 2-3 months. And as I said, most of those will eventually get claimed and buried.
Okay. You know, whenever we have deaths in the jails, and that happens in jails all over the country, it stirs a similar kind of reaction from a public elected body like ourselves, as it should, as well as the general public. What the heck is going on? So I think the more transparent we are on this, the better. And I do like the idea of having a web portal to help in identification. I think that also alerts the community at large to, you know, a very real issue that we have here. Dr. Schmidt, is it possible to ID everybody?
No.
Even with DNA these days?
DNA can theoretically be extracted from a lot of different kinds of tissue. The most difficult IDs that have happened in this office are actually from people who are skeletonized. In other words, they're just bones. But that meant that there was a family member that showed up that could be swabbed so that their reference DNA could be sent to the lab. to be compared to that extracted from the bone or whatever remnant tissue was left. So if we have a set of bones, which is really the most common, completely unidentified individual, and there is no one left who is related to you to step forth and provide a swab so that we can obtain their DNA, then you will remain unidentified forever.
So there just are practical problems in getting to 100%.
Right, and reality is that there are a lot of people who really do remain alone in this world. They had their closest relatives were gone by the time that they died, and there is really not only no one to claim them, but no close relatives to them either.
And we do have a pretty busy ME's office. Going back to your report that you sent us, which is pretty comprehensive, and I really like going through it. It'd be on page 5, where you talk about what you have implemented, corrective actions to prevent delays in identification and notification. You bullet point 3 things have implemented, and then you have your planned and your short term. And the number 1 on there is to create a new scene investigator position to manage case inventory, including all identified cases and release schedules. I'm glad you're beefing up in that regard. Is that also kind of an indication that maybe without this position and hiring someone in it, that maybe a few more cases would slip through the cracks? Is the idea here that this additional person is going to be able to identify more when we have John and Jane Doe's in the ME's office?
Yes, that's the idea behind it.
Okay. It's a little, I would have expected it before this. Is that person going to work for all of your ME contracts then as well?
No, that person would be dedicated.
Just Wayne County. Okay. I think we have to talk about reporting here, and not here in this meeting, but with the contract coming up next year, and with this new person and reporting and how often and that sort of thing, I think should come up in that contract. You also comment here on expanding licenses to allow scene investigators individual access to databases. Is that to police databases? What databases are you talking about there?
Well, those are commercial databases like LexisNexis that for increased access, you have to pay a fee, and they have site licenses.
Yes, you do.
For more than one.
Go over to the law school and get in on their subscription somehow. That LexisNexis and that stuff is expensive to get, but it's good to have that. That will be helpful. And then I think creating, and it looks to be like an internal dashboard that you can talk about at meetings where we're at and that kind of stuff. Given the fact that there is a larger just overall audit going on in anticipation of a contract coming before us, perhaps next July or August, I believe the contract ends on the last day of the fiscal year. And you have termed this corrective action plan to prevent delays, and what you're planning in the next several months on this. Can you make sure a report on this comes to the commission and to our Auditor General, who now has this report on what short-term actions, and so anything that happens between now and the completion of the audit, that our Auditor General could see that, and then it can be included in the overall audit? Then we don't have to go back and talk about all of that again. Would that be a possible thing to do?
Commissioner, this is Jeff. I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
Well, I was just going to reiterate, Mr. Myers, that a report, sort of corrective action plan and what you plan on doing in the less than 3 or equal to 3 months. You've got several bullet points, a report that comes to both the commission here and to the people you've been sending reports to, our commission staff, as well as making sure that our Auditor General has a copy of that update. Is that possible, sir?
Absolutely, and I think it's a great suggestion. You know, to your points, which have been really a wonderful review of some of the information in our report, I just want to emphasize that our goal in all of this is the best care for every deceased person at the Wayne County Medical Examiner's Office. And we can cite statistics to say this is a rare event, but to be honest, we don't ever want it to happen to anybody, no matter how busy our office is. And that's why we have this comprehensive plan. And I suspect our corrective actions may grow as we learn more. In addition to the audit that was already planned, you may have noticed that we're recruiting expertise from our College of Engineering that has a great deal of experience in looking critically at systems and procedures and identifying opportunities for improvement that might be blind to those for whom it has become commonplace. So we want to continue to learn. We want to always get better. And we are happy to report on that. And I think including it periodically, and certainly by the time your planned audit is completed, makes a lot of sense to us.
Well, I appreciate that from a management point of view, because indeed, as you say, right, sometimes things can become too routine and you miss. And as I said in my remarks before, this reminds me a lot of the discussion when we have a death in the jail. And that should never happen, but it does, right? And then you have to sort out, is there something we're doing bureaucratically that we could have done better, or all of that. And so this is the same kind of situation, I think needs the same kind of very much care, because it might only be a couple, but to those families, it's not, that is no comfort to the families. So thank you for your presentation today. Thank you for the answers to your question. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Colleen. Commissioner Kenlock had a question. Commissioner Kenlock?
Yes, good afternoon, and I want to thank you all for coming before us today to present some of your responses in regards to some of these recent incidents that have come up. I know you made reference to these 5 matters that have come to the public, come to the forefront because of news reports. But from what we're being told as a commission, there are a number of these incidences, and I'm hoping that you have, you know, in your presentation, you talked about some staff changes, some additional hires that you're looking to have. Are there any other needs within the medical examiner's office for more employment? Because what I'm saying is that we want to make sure that this never happens again. I know you have explained the urgency as it relates to your response, but this here is, you know, we can't wait until the contract comes up to start getting reporting. We need to be brought into the loop more sooner as it relates to a regular update, whether it's every 6 months while this contract is in place, to get information as it relates to the number of bodies that come in, number of bodies that are returned, as well as any bodies that remain under your custody, and those that, and also how they are disposed of. Because it seems like it's been very lax as far as the regular ongoing flow of information for a contract this size. And so I just wanted to let you know, and not to go away with, we appreciate the information bringing to us today, but there is a sense of outrage and how you all handled those cases. And you must understand that we never should have to go back to this point again, because this is just unacceptable, some of the concerns that we're hearing. And you all are saying that these 5 incidences and talking about how few they are, but I understand there are a lot more. And there have been families that have been mishandled in how their loved one has been returned to them. So my question to you is, do you first of all keep track of complaints and how are those complaints transmitted, and how are they filed? Are they filed finally with the Health and Human Services Department, or are they filed with, where do those annual reports, or do you do any reporting at all at this point?
First of all, thank you for the question, and I think it's a really important issue. And I want to reiterate and be very clear that 5 or 6 is 5 or 6 too many for the families of Wayne County. And it's something we aim to improve. I don't know that we have a specific performance indicator to monitor complaints, but we're happy to learn more about that and get that information back to you. What I can tell you is that with reference to needing better communication with the commissioners and the citizens of Wayne County, one of the corrective actions you may have noted is our plan to, on a quarterly basis, review key performance indicators with Director Jordan and her department to make sure that we remain accountable for the work that we do and for making better what we say we're going to make better. That will also be linked to a dashboard that will be reviewed monthly by our operations group in the office, and we are also happy to share that information. So I love your idea about getting better at sharing information and being accountable for the numbers, and we aim to do that. It's part of our comprehensive plan to do better by the citizens of Wayne County.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Kinlock. Are there any other questions from any other commissioners? It looks like Commissioner Anderson. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the presentation and, just explaining some of the steps that are going to be taken to try to address the problems that we've experienced and learned about recently. I wondered if we could get at a later date, certainly not today. And I know that the particular issues, the number of cases that made all the headlines that I think are extremely serious, that we could get because they weren't identified. I don't know if there was a particular, if there's a problem doing that, then I understand. But and if there's litigation, I guess there probably would not be a willingness to identify. But I'm just, because I think I followed most of the cases that you were mentioning without mentioning the name, but there seemed to be, I guess there just seems to be the lack of oversight in the ME's office, and I'm just wondering what happened besides the particular person. Why didn't someone catch it? Are there periodic inspections, unannounced inspections by a team or a couple of people, whatever it might be, that would take a look and see if everything is being done properly? I know our auditor did an audit, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think I remember seeing that, and it was pretty thorough. And I just wondered, in the meanwhile, between those audits and between incidents such as these terrible incidents that we've witnessed and or seen and heard about, that we have some type of an inspection process to make sure that things are happening the way they should be handled. And because if not, we're likely to see a repeat of this down the road.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, Commissioner Anderson. It's a great question. I would share with you that we actually are inspected and audited regularly on a number of fronts. In addition to the audits being done by Wayne County, our office is name accredited, as we've mentioned, and that requires an accreditation visit, which is pretty rigorous. to understand whether we're complying with practice standards. In addition to that, as you may have noted in our comprehensive plan, we are planning to do a one-time audit to kind of understand where our baseline is. We want to make sure that there are no other circumstances out there that we don't know about and should. So that is part of our work. The dashboards and quarterly review of quality indicators, I think, is another part that feels like a fit with the sort of oversight you're referring to. And I think in creating a new position and making this sort of work somebody's full-time job without distraction, something on which they can focus, I think also gets to that level of oversight. And finally, as kind of buried in the details of our comprehensive action plan, is a plan to annually assess the competency and performance of our scene investigators to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to expectations for the processes and procedures relevant to identification of decedents who are stored in our county. And perhaps we'll identify other opportunities, but I think a multi-layered approach to providing the sort of oversight to which you rightly referred is our strategy.
Yeah, I'm looking at, besides the accreditation review or inspections, that something be, and I don't know how often is that done? Is that done once a year, once every 2 years? I'm just wondering, I'm hoping that we'll have, at least in the short term, very strenuous reviews of the procedures and the processes that are used when a decedent is brought into the facility, that everything is checked off, that everything is done properly, and that there's some oversight, stronger oversight, I should say. That's what I'm trying to get to, and I think you understand that, but I just want us to do everything we can to avoid seeing a repeat of this.
I appreciate that, and we have exactly the same goal. We are determined. I think as evidenced by the plan that's in place, but you're right, that plan will grow as we identify additional opportunities like the one you described.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. And it looks like Director Jordan.
Thank you.
Melita, did you,
Yeah, Melita Jordan, thank you very much. I just wanted to address a number of the concerns also raised by Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Kinlock as well in terms of oversight. I will say that my first visit, or quarterly visit actually, with the university and the MEO's office occurred in August. And one of the things that I brought to their attention was that we certainly wanted to develop what I consider a results-based accountability by looking at performance measures as well as metrics. And so therefore, I did request on a monthly basis that I will be going through not only the cases, but again, all of the metrics in terms of things that we are actually looking for to make sure that we're holding them accountable as well as holding ourselves accountable. Secondly, we have worked very closely with the university during this period of time to review the cases. The specific cases that have been mentioned in the news report have been sent to the Auditor General's office for their review. So they actually do have that information. I've made that available to them. They also have a copy of the report as well. I will be meeting, as I said, getting monthly information, but I also will continue quarterly meetings that will be an in-depth meeting with the university in terms of reviewing the scope of work, those things that we have outlined in the contract that they are accountable for, as well as making sure that a report is also sent to me. And so we certainly can make that available as well to the commission. And so that will be forthcoming as well. As I've said now, I guess in just a few days, specifically, Commissioner Anderson, I will say just a few days, it will be 6 months that I've now been here. And so in that 6-month period, I am very much trying to wrap my arms around all of the areas in which I have oversight for, and making sure that we are accountable, that we have metrics in place, that there are performance measures, that are expectations from everyone. And I certainly am looking at all of the areas of responsibility to make sure that we are providing quality care, that we also are dealing and handling the challenges that come before us quickly and expeditiously, and to make sure that there are procedures in place, and keeping you accountable as well in terms of the information that we're gleaning from that. However, as you well know, it takes time to initiate these things, but we are actually on top of this. I think Dr. Myers, Dr. Wilson, and Dr. Schmidt have been very engaged in this process with us, and have worked very closely with us in terms of getting the report to you, as well as answering all of your questions and making sure that we can be as transparent. As you know, they mentioned, Dr. Schmidt mentioned the portal. I just want to say that that is a concept that has been initiated. It still has to go through a process of us being able to develop that. That is not something that's going to happen in the next week or so, or the next month. But I do want you to know that I do think it's a good idea, but those things, as you well know, is a process. And so I just want to bring that to everyone's attention as well. Certainly we'll take that into consideration, but those things have to be worked through IT, have to be worked through in terms of software. So I do want you to know, I think it's a great idea, but it's not something that we can happen instantly. So please be aware of that. Thank you very much.
I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Director Jordan.
And to the person, the new hire that you alluded to, is that something that will happen right away? The full-time person?
Yes, as soon as we can identify someone.
Okay.
The job is going to get posted, and you have to go through the interview process and all that.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much again for the thorough report. I think we all have a better understanding of how the ME's office works. I think you laid out how the ME office will be working to have accountability in this area, and making sure that those corrections are made so that these issues don't happen ever again. That is the hope. And so again, thank you all for attending our meeting today.
May I ask a question?
And who's that? I'm sorry. Speaking.
Yeah.
No, it's public. No, Monique, that's under public.
Okay, I
This is from
didn't
the
know
public.
who was, who was speaking. So
Yeah.
yes, if you want to make a public comment, we will have public discussion or comments later.
Madam Chair, could I make a comment?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
I just want to make sure that the staff there knows, if you didn't know earlier, that the engineering services contract was approved in the CAPS meeting this morning to go ahead with looking at your building and improving it. So that was passed through committee this morning, and that will be in full board next week.
Great, great. All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner McCormick.
Yep, and thank you, Commissioner Marecki, and all that have presented today. Thank you again for attending the meeting. And again, we will have public comments. And in fact, maybe we'll move our comments up to take them now.
I have a comment, if I may.
Madam Clerk, can we go to public comments and give the opportunity for those that want to make a comment?
How much time, Madam Chair?
2 minutes. Can you state your name, and you can go right ahead with your comment.
Thank you. My name is Charles Gary Javisian, and I'm the father of the person for the case of 2017. I have a couple questions. Under what conditions do you perform an autopsy? And do you, Dr. Schmidt, or anyone else, Jeffrey Myers, are you compensated in any way for each autopsy that you perform?
Okay, sir, I do apologize, but during public comments, it's just simply comments. We don't answer questions or go back and forth.
Let me
Okay.
rephrase my question then.
Sure.
In my opinion, there was no need for an autopsy of our son, since the police report clearly stated the cause of death was overdose. The needle was still in his arm and the cap was still in his mouth. And it was deeply disturbing that an autopsy was performed on our son. I also want to state that because of my connections with funeral homes, I was able to secure 2 embalmers who worked on my son for 3 days so we could have an open casket. I didn't want him to have this last humiliation of a closed casket. That's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you, and my apologies to you and your family. The next, any other comments? Any other public comments? Any other public comments?
There was a Trisha in the chat. I'm not sure if she wants to speak.
Okay. Can you just type out anything in the chat? Can you?
Yes.
Read off?
She said that she's having issues with identifying family members from 2 years ago. And she also said he had driver's license and 4 prior surgeries that matched the remains, and we still don't know.
Okay. So the person that made the.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out how to get my phone working. Yeah, that was from me. I was wondering for skeletal remains that had previous surgeries that showed on the remains of the person and had a driver's license on the body, wondering, because to this day we still don't know, and this was July 2019, and then come to find out he was cremated, but we still don't have an identification.
Okay, if you can send your information to the clerk and we can help you look into that.
Okay, because the last thing I knew from back in August, I was told by the detective that all my analysis for the family and from the bone was done and just waiting for a hit and CODIS. And then again told 2 weeks ago, still waiting for a hit and CODIS for a family member against the bone, and was told that the lab in Texas was shut down for a whole year due to COVID, and that's why it was delayed on being identified.
Okay, thank you for your comment. We again, if you can just send your information over to our clerk, and then we will try to help you with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Madam Clerk, was there any emails?
Yes, my wife would like to ask a question.
Yes.
So again, we don't answer questions. This is really just for comments.
Okay, I have a comment.
Sure, go right ahead.
My comment.
And your name, please?
Patricia Javisian.
Okay,
My comment
thank you.
is, these, all these cases that have been brought up seem to all be drug addicts. And that to me raises a red flag. And that's
Of drug addicts being treated
right,
differently.
right.
Thank you for your comment. We again are sorry for your loss and the issues that you've had. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Any emails, Madam Clerk?
I haven't received any emails. Pam, do you have any?
No.
All right. Well, thank you. We can move on to our next item.
Item 2, we have an update regarding COVID-19.
Madam Jordan?
Madam Chair, Baker, Ms. Harlan Baker will give the COVID-19 report today. Thank you.
All right. Welcome, Ms. Baker. If you can give your full name and title.
Baker, Chief Operating Officer for the Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services.
Thank you. You can go right ahead with your report.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start with, actually, this is the data for last week for the period of October 17 through the 23rd. And I'll start with the number of new cases. So for new cases over the past week, there were a total of 2,044 new cases and 8 new deaths reported for Wayne County. This is an 8% decrease in confirmed cases from the previous week when we reported 2,220 new cases. This is also down from 13 deaths reported at that time, the previous week. The average number of new cases per day is 292 for last week. Cumulatively, so in total, there have been 122,710 cases since March 2020 and 2,786 deaths. Demographics. By age, the mean age was 37.3 years, while the mode was 11 years of age last week. And we've been seeing this trend week by week over the past 3 weeks, where we're seeing younger age groups within our data set. We actually saw an increase. So among all of the cases, we saw a decrease in the number of cases in all age group. However, an increase in those 5 to 11. That was the only age group where we saw the number of increase from the previous week to this week. By municipalities, Canton Township had the highest number of cases with 206 cases and 10% of the total cases in Wayne County, followed by Dearborn, 182 cases and 9% of the total cases, followed by Livonia, 163 cases and 8% of total cases, then Westland, 151 cases and 7% of the total cases, and then Taylor, 129 cases, 6% of the total cases. Also, over the past few weeks, we've seen an increase in the percent positivity. So last week, for that time period, actually the time period for, this is a 7-day average that I'm reporting, and the time frame is from October 15 through October 21st. And our percent positivity is 8.9%. So this is among those who were tested. And this is an increase from 8.6% the previous week And the prior week to that, 7.9% and 7.2%. So we've been seeing this percent positivity increase. The testing capacity, the county averaged 3,920 tests per day over the last reporting period. For the state of Michigan, they the state averages 3,745 cases, while Detroit averaged 6,954 cases over the past week. We are still tracking the school outbreaks, and over the past week, we reported 6 new school outbreaks and 6 ongoing outbreaks. And these outbreaks occurred in Taylor, Dearborn, Kenton Township, Northville, as well as Harper Woods. And this over the past week, the 6 new outbreaks that we're tracking included 23 cases, 22 students, and 1 staff/employee. Variant tracking, more than 95% of the confirmed lab variant cases reported for Wayne County by the state are attributable to the Alpha variant as well as the Delta variant. And to date, the state have reported 606 total Delta variants, and over the past week reported 80 cases of Delta variant. We are administering booster shots, and so and that is for immunocompromised as well as those 65 and older, and those 18 and older within long-term care settings, as well as those 18 older in occupational that work in occupations that put them at risk. And the booster shot, I actually have a screen that Director Jordan wants me to share with you. If I can share my screen really quick to share the criteria, the eligibility for the booster shots.
You can share your screen.
All right, thank you. Can you see, from the current slide?
Yes.
Okay, so the Food and Drug Administration expanded the use of booster vaccines. So we started off with just Pfizer and Moderna for immunocompromised. And so as of October 20th, FDA expanded the use of Johnson & Johnson. So Johnson & Johnson is available for those wanting to get that vaccine. And basically, those who are taking Johnson & Johnson, who actually had their primary dose of Johnson & Johnson, can get a single dose booster of Johnson & Johnson 2 months post their primary dose, or they can get a Moderna or Pfizer vaccine. And there's no restriction on Johnson & Johnson other than you have to be 18 and older. So those 18 and older can get a single booster shot if they had their primary dose of Johnson & Johnson. For Pfizer eligibility is those people 65 and older, 18 and older with underlying medical condition, long-term care setting, 18 and older, and those with high risk occupation as stated, and those who are immunocompromised, age 12 and older for Pfizer. So Pfizer is the only FDA approved vaccine among the 3. The remaining 2 are under emergency use authorization. And Pfizer right now has a request with the FDA to expand the emergency use authorization for children 5 to 11. And so, and so that will be for the immunocompromised for children as well. They are eligible to take the Pfizer vaccine, those who are 12 and older. So for our county, Wayne County, for our health department, we've actually administered 2,493 booster shots. And overall, in total, with all, including all providers, there have been 45,916 booster shots administered. Vaccine coverage, our vaccination rate for those with one dose is 71.9%, and those who have received two doses, a second dose is 66.4%. By age, persons 65 and older have the highest vaccination rate, and the lowest is persons 12 through 15. We are still tracking those breakthrough cases, and for Wayne County, the breakthrough cases is still less than 1% of those who are vaccinated. Among the breakthrough cases, we've experienced 74 deaths, 95 hospitalizations, and 176 were reported, of those breakthrough cases were reported with a variant of concern. Wayne County, among the total breakthrough cases statewide, Wayne County makes up 9% of the breakthrough cases. We are also still administering in-home vaccinations, and today we've administered 402 doses of vaccines at home, and which includes 74 of those being Johnson & Johnson. Okay, this concludes my update.
Thank you. Commissioner Marecki had a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Harlan, for the detailed update. So if I understood you right, there's 6 new school outbreaks, and you named the towns that these outbreaks were, and that adds up to 23 cases in that 6 new school outbreaks. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So my question is, what is the criteria for Wayne County to reevaluate their mask mandate for schools? Is there a certain level that this is going to be looked at again? Because I understand Oakland County now is at the highest level and they have a mask mandate. So I'm just wondering, at what point will Wayne County look at this mask mandate again? What numbers have to be there to do this? If there's anyone.
Hi, Carol Osterbury, Health Officer. And yes, through the chair, yes, we have criteria as far as then looking to, it would be when our positivity rate and our transmission levels and our case numbers go down. At this point, we are not looking at, revising the mask mandate for schools because, as we're reporting out, we still have that positivity rate that is increasing. We have that steady, case numbers, even as we track our school outbreaks every week. So at this point, yes, we are, monitoring all of the data in relationship to our current mask mandate. It makes sense to keep everything with the mask mandate. I think that's your question.
Yeah, it is. But if we've had 23 cases, if I heard correctly, it's 23 cases. Does it have to go to like 0 for so many weeks? I mean, it's not going to get to 0. So I'm just wondering what's the goal? I mean, or are we going to look at different school districts that maybe are having 0 outbreaks? And I mean, 23 cases. Yeah, I mean, you don't want anybody to get this, but what is the goal? 0?
As far as the school outbreaks, that again, as I said, that we look at multiple factors. It's not going to be, determined based on just one factor. And we're looking at that whole community and the community transmission and the case numbers throughout the whole community is what I'm saying. We aren't only just focusing on the number of school outbreaks. It will be based on those decisions, as the decisions to institute the mask mandate were based on, a multitude of COVID-19 metrics.
Okay, I get that. But are there actual metrics to stop the mask mandate?
At the end of the mandate, yes, it is listed there as far as looking at, the transmission, the case, the positivity rate. Yes, that is part of the actual mandate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm all
Thank
set,
you,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Marecki. Commissioner Dobb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is on the booster shots. Is there a reason we are going with, the restricted groups, like the immunocompromised and the age groups? I see other pharmacies, I think Meyer Pharmacy is allowing anyone to come in and get a booster shot. Do we have like a high demand of people that are coming in to get the booster that, we want to keep it to the immunocompromised, the senior citizens? Or what's the reason for that, for not opening it up to just everyone?
Commissioner, I can answer that. So this is based on the approval from the FDA, as well as the recommendations as to how to deploy this by the CDC. So this is universal across all providers. So I'm not sure when you say that Myers and all of these other providers are expanding it, I'm not sure if that is accurate, because all providers are under this authorization. So as of now, what we know, what's been approved by the FDA, these are the groups, the priority groups that have been approved based on clinical studies that have been done, based on, and other factors, I'm sure, that are occurring. So that's, I think that's to be explored if other providers are not adhering to this approval and authorization by the FDA.
Okay. I mean, I don't have any personal knowledge of this. I haven't tried to get an appointment for a booster shot, but just had some people tell me that they've been able to get them, or they've been able to get an appointment. So maybe the pharmacies just aren't asking questions.
That could be.
Yeah, I don't know, but okay. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dobb. Are there any other questions from commissioners? See Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, Madam Chair. I know Commissioner Dobb asked a quick question there, and I might have missed part of it, but I do know for a fact that in Canton, the Sam's Club is providing both flu shots and COVID boosters for, I believe, for Pfizer. I'm not sure. I know it's for Pfizer, but I'm not sure about the others. But they're providing them, and someone doesn't have to be a member. They can just walk right in. Appointments aren't necessary even, but they just need to find out the hours of the pharmacy. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Baker, could you forward over your report? You kind of read it today, but it's good to see the numbers. Hard to follow without it. But would you mind sending that over to commission staff so we could all have that?
Yes, I can. And
Okay.
I kept the report. I didn't share the whole report because I didn't want to take a long time.
No, I got you, but it's,
but I will.
yeah, then it's up to me to read it. So I would appreciate that. And if our health officer is still on, Ms. Osterberry, what what's the scuttlebutt among all you health officers about the Delta Plus? What's going on with that?
Oh, well, the Delta Plus, with the Delta variant, we're, have been tracking that and looking at the, any new variants. And as we, just the word out of, all health officers, get vaccinated, follow the mitigation strategies, we need to slow the spread, and then that slows, the possible any other variants coming through.
Any indication of, well, we hope it's any other variant. And I'm going to comment on that. Any statistics now on the Delta Plus in terms of its transmissibility and that sort of thing? Do we know anything like that now?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking. I have not heard of anything specific yet.
Okay.
That hasn't been reported in our data, and it seems as if this has been in discussion over the past week. We're still trying to track the new variant that was, talked about. And so once that is assessed, because the state actually does a lab sequencing to confirm whether it's the variant, and then they report it to the local jurisdiction. And the thing with the sequencing, I'm also aware that when a new variant is mentioned, the lab has to then set up their sequencing process to be able to test that variant as well. So if it's going to roll down, it's probably going to be a couple of, and if this is something that will be tested, it's probably going to be a couple of, some time in order for us to see that in our data set.
Yeah, it's true. The Delta virus keeps on teaching us new tricks all the time. And so we just don't have enough medical data on the plus yet. I will observe from your numbers that 1/3 of the state of Michigan has no defense against this virus, no shots whatsoever. 2/3 of the people in the city of Detroit have no defense against this whatsoever, no shots at all. Well under half of the people in the world don't have at least one shot yet. So, these variants and everything, and there's well over 2,000 variants that have been identified. There's just the one that we talk about all the time, the Delta, that's had a very bad impact on the population. But with 3.5 billion with a B people in this world that are all sharing this Delta, or not the Delta, but the COVID virus, the chances of more variants emerging get better and better each day. And so I know we're all concerned about our local communities and Wayne County and all of that sort of thing, but it's a pandemic. None of this started here in Michigan. It all came here. And with everybody flying around the world and everything that we do these days with people moving around, a variant that's not so nice that could pop up anywhere, London, England, will be here in a flash. And so it's not just us locally. It's a pandemic, and this virus moves very easily throughout the world. So I don't want to get like, well, in my community, it's down to this, or the school districts in my county are like this. That's only temporary. It exists in, among the 7 billion people in this world that are handing this virus around. So none of us are an island when it comes to this virus. So I just want to remind people of the bigger picture that's out there, and no time to relax. Half the world has no defense against this, and that can have broad implications. If the next variant, and there is going to be the next variant, and there's going to be hundreds of the next variant, overwhelmingly, none of those will have any effect whatsoever. But out of that, one pops up, two pop up, that make us re-look at medically how we are dealing with this. It becomes difficult. So I'm just sending out the message. let's not do too much relaxing too soon. As Yogi Berra says, it ain't over till it's over, and it ain't over. So, okay, well, I'm looking for more news on the Delta Plus. Maybe it's not going to be a really bad variant, because we might know that by now because it's popped up all over the world, but just on variant watch here. And thank you for the report, Ms. Baker, and I look forward to seeing it roll across my computer screen. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Colleen. And again, thank you, Ms. Baker, for your presentation. It's evening almost. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next time. All right, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 3, forwarding notification of an emergency procurement report for a contract with an option for up to a 12-month extension with ProLink Healthcare.
Okay, and I think all of these are emergency procurements. Let's just do these together. Is that correct? 3 through 5, I believe.
Correct.
And we can discuss each item. Can I get a motion on the items?
I'll move to approve. These are receiving files then, right?
Yes.
Yep, I'll move to
Support
approve.
Anderson.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Let's go to item 3. Any comments, questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Commissioner Colleen.
My question was really for all 3. These just, all 3 of them, and I went back and checked the paperwork, but I want to say it out loud too. None of these come along with increase in the amount of the contract. It just extends the time of the contract, but keeps the original amount that the contract was for the same. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Carol Berry. Yeah, these are just 3 receipt and files.
Yeah, but no change in amount. It's just extending the length of the contract for the same amount that they were originally let for.
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chris Albrecht, Policy Analyst, Wayne County Commission. Unless I have the wrong agenda in front of me here, it appears that all 3 items include a not to exceed amount. Item number 3, around 2 million. Item number 4, around 900,000. Item number 5, around 954,000. I can check my documentation to confirm that. It'll just take a moment.
Yes,
let's look like what it says is not to exceed, and at least 3 and 4. I can't see 5.
Madam Chair,
what he's saying is that it will increase.
And through
what they're paid currently, what the contract is paying out.
But
Go right ahead.
all three were completed September 30th. None of them are being extended. I'm sorry, Carol Osterberry through the chair.
Okay. So do we know what the amount of the contract is at this point? Because it does say to not exceed, to the point of what Chris was saying.
Correct. All 3 were written with not to exceed amounts.
So do we know the final amount?
The final amount for each, I do not have that in front of me. I don't know if someone from management and budget is on.
And I think that's what Commissioner Colleen, you were trying to get to the bottom of, is the bottom line.
Well, I was trying, and then so I just correct all 3 of them that we're talking about in the motion here were let as emergency procurements, and they all had not to exceed amounts in them.
Mm-hmm.
And those amounts have not changed, the not to exceed amounts, correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. And all you were coming back for was to notify us, I suppose, that the terms were extended because they were emergency procurement.
None of these had a term extended. This is just the receipt and file of the 3 emergency procurements.
We haven't seen these before. This is the original. This is the first time we've seen them as a receive and file item.
That is correct.
Okay, I thought you were bringing us before us to say, and that's why I asked at the beginning, whether we were just extending the term. So all the contracts are done.
This is correct, yes.
So what are we going to do for these services if they're not providing them anymore?
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry. So yes, very good question. As far as the services, so we were able to then, with fiscal year 22, also received monies to hire in employees through our SEMHA contracts, so we aren't having to use these third-party vending contracts, which was what ProLink was. Coherent RX, we have been able to, this actually was established to set up that process. And then the last one, Maro, that work was all completed as the door-to-door campaign. It was a one-time campaign, and that finished.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Madam Chair. These receive and file and these emergency procurement ones are hard to track, that we haven't seen it before and the contract is already done. So yeah, sorry about that, Madam Chair, but that's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Colleen. Any other questions? 4 or 5? All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote,
Aye.
please.
Oh.
Well, we receive and file, so yes, we could do roll call, yes.
Please.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, motion passed. Next item, please.
F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
There are no such other matters. Next item.
Public comments, we did get an email comment.
Okay, and let's open up the lines as well for any additional public comments.
The lines have been unmuted.
All right. Are there any additional public comments? No additional public comments. We can go ahead with the email.
This is from Akifa Yakima. It says, I do not want you to give these dangerous vaccines to children of any age. A lot of scientists and telling us of the dangerous substances like graphene and fetal tissue and other substances in the vaccine. You may not be held accountable now, but one day you shall be. And that was all.
All right. And I don't believe there were any other callers on the phone or in Zoom that wanted to make any comments. Thank you. Next item, please.
Adjournment.
Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.